This has to be my most requested video of all time. Today, you guys are finally getting that library tour you've been asking for years. I have somewhere between 900 and 1,000 books in my home at the moment, most of which live within the shelves in my home office. But I'm also at the end of the video going to take you downstairs into my living room and show you a couple of shelves I have down there as well, which is kind of like an extension of this home library. And I actually just unhauled close to 400 books. It ended up being like 390 something books. So this is after that unhaul. We are still just under that 1,000 mark. I've been putting this off for a few reasons, one of which is just like my shelves never feel 100% perfect. I always like this bit behind me because this is where I film. The rest of it descends into madness slightly, but also like my shelves maybe look a bit different. I don't know. There's lots of clutter. I'm a big crystal collector, so there's crystals everywhere. There's candles, there's bookmarks, there's just stuff everywhere. So it's just never felt like it's the most aesthetic bookshelf to show off, I guess, compared to some of these videos I've seen where like people have these most amazing bookshelves in their homes. But this is how it looks 99% of the time. It changes quite a bit. I'm very lucky to be sent a lot of book mail, and also I pay for a lot of book subscriptions. So I've got this constant cycle of like hauling and unhauling books. So this is what it looks like for now, and I'm hoping this is going to be a really comprehensive view of like everything I have. We're going to go through these shelves one at a time, and I'm going to show you every single book that I own on these shelves. This video is already going to be long enough as it is, so go and grab a coffee or a tea or some kind of hot beverage, get some snacks, you might need them. And before we dive into the video, make sure you're subscribed if you aren't already, and make sure to drop a like, it really helps with the algorithm. And then as we're going through this video together, leave me a note in the comment, like if you could steal any book off my bookshelf, let me know what you'd be stealing in the comments down below. Okay, let's dive into the video because we're already a few minutes in, let's go. The room that I actually keep my books in is also like a hybrid office, and as you can see, there are quite a few shelves in here. I'm going to start with this section behind me, specifically if you're looking at where we're going to start, so you can try and picture it as we're moving around. I'm going to start up in this kind of top cubby hole, but I'll just show you the few books, there's not many, that I keep on the top of my bookcases as well first. So starting off up on these top shelves, these aren't technically shelves. Someone's going to let me know in the comments that you can buy kind of extensions. All of my cases in here, by the way, are Billy's, IKEA Billy shelves, and I know you can buy the extensions to go on the top. However, there is actually not enough room between the top of my case and my ceiling to fit one. I have measured, so these books just live up here because there's nowhere else for them to go. So up here I have, this is the original Throne of Glass white paperback set. I bought this brand new. I actually got rid of my old copies and bought this brand new just as they were going out of print so that I could keep them. Throne of Glass is my favourite series of all time, so you'll see quite a few copies of Throne of Glass as we work our way around. A couple of random books I have up there as well is like this ACOTAR official colouring book, which I have never coloured in, and also Throne of Glass colouring book. These kind of just exist up there as collector's items, I guess. I don't plan on ever using these. There you go, I've turned this one around just so you can see the editions that I'm on about, and I'll turn it back around in a second, but this is what the red box set is up here. Then in this middle section, these are the Fae Crate Soul to Keep, the Duskwalker Bride series by Opal Rain. This is one of my all-time favourite monster romance series. In fact, I'd go as far as saying it maybe is. If you consider Monster as just Monster and not Alien and Monster, this is definitely my favourite monster romance series of all time. And then finally up on this side we have the newer style Throne of Glass paperbacks. Again, I have multiples, not because I think I need multiples, just because I'm a huge collector of certain series or specific authors. So they've actually redone these again since I bought these. They now have bright coloured spines, which I'm not so much of a fan of. I definitely prefer the kind of darker colour palette on these ones, so I'm glad I grabbed them when I did. I feel like I need to add a note in at this point that you're probably going to see lots of duplicates on my shelves and potentially some books that are harder to come by. I am quite an avid collector of books, and I don't always talk about that fact. So as much as I'm a huge reader, like I really consider myself a true collector of items as well. So if you're looking at this video and you're like, why has this girl got like 1 million copies of that book? Then that's why. I definitely could cut down on the amount of books I have by quite a bit if I got rid of a lot of my duplicates. However, I currently live in my house with just me and my husband, and whilst I have the space to have this size of a collection, I'm going to be keeping them. But just as a note, like, if you're watching this and you're going like, wow, she's mad, she's gone insane, you would not be wrong. But also I'm aware that I don't need multiple copies of all of these books. There are quite a few that are duplicates in here. So just as a note, and it has taken me, I want to say, almost 5 years to build my collection to what it is. Okay, great. Now that's out of the way, let's dive into the actual shelves. Starting with this shelf, which is my Study in Drowning shelf. I've just got a Dark Academia candle up here from Barnes & Noble, and then also a little Flower Argate crow, so let me just move those. This is another book or series you're going to see me have quite a few copies of. So these are the Illumicrate editions of A Study in Drowning and A Theory of Dreaming. And then these two tucked in here are the US editions. So this is the US edition of A Study in Drowning with sprayed edges, and the US edition of book 2 as well that matches. And the last thing I have up on this shelf is the beautiful Owl Crate edition of A Study in Drowning as well. This is another one of my favourite books. Moving down a shelf, here we have some of my favourite kind of, I was about to say Arcane editions, but there is a Bookish Box series on here as well. I'll try and remember to mention every crystal that I come across, but in case I forget, maybe I'll just, do you guys want a full crystal collection video? You'll have to let me know. There's a lot of them, and they're not all in this room actually. So on here I have the Bookish Box editions of the Daughter of No World series by Carissa Broadbent. Carissa Broadbent's another author you're going to see lots of duplicates for. She is one of my all-time favourites. I then also have the Arcane editions of The Ever Queen and The Ever King by LJ Andrews. And then these 5 on the end are the Arcane editions of From Blood and Ash that they've done so far from Jennifer L. Armentrout. Now again, Jennifer L. Armentrout you're going to see quite a few times in this video. I promise most of my duplicates are actually books that are behind me. When we get onto the rest of the shelf, there's probably not too many. This next shelf has a number of different paperback proofs on it that are all kind of standard UK paperback size. The crystals on here, I won't go through all of them, but I just have a collection of towers on there. So starting on the left, I have The Songbird and the Heart of Stone and The Fallen of the Kiss of Dusk. These are the UK proofs and they are beautiful. I also have Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. This is a UK proof as well. A UK proof of Iron and Embers. Ignore this random Iron and Embers here. This is just the standard paperback, but it's beautiful. I didn't really have anywhere else to put this and it felt like it fit here. This is actually the most recent addition to my collection. This is Namorata by Ava Reid. Ava Reid, you're going to see a lot. Some of these need no explanation. Just assume if you're seeing a book multiple times, it is just because I love it so much. Also on this stack, we have the UK Fallen City proof by Adrian Young, The Lies That Summoned the Night by Tassonia Odette, Half City by Kate Golden, again that's standard paperback of Iron and Embers, the smaller proof of To Cage a Wild Bird by Brooke Fast, Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry, and then a Silver Elite proof at the bottom there as well. Next up, we're starting to get into some special edition hardbacks. I think most of these are Fairyloot. I just took this off without saying anything. This is a big old blue flashy moonstone fox. So again, going left to right, this is the Waterstones edition of When the Moon Hatched, and then I have the Fairyloot editions of Serpent and the Wings of Night and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. This is beautiful. This is another edition of When the Moon Hatched. It's probably annoying people that it's halfway through. I'll move that in a second. This is the glorious Page and Wick edition. Let me actually just go ahead and put that over there so people get less mad at me. Then we also have the Fairyloot edition of To Cage a Wild Bird, the Fairyloot edition of Metal Slinger. This is a Fairyloot edition Warrior Princess Assassin, and then I believe this is the Waterstones exclusive of Wild Reverence. This is the majority of my Ali Hazelwood books. I do have a couple of the proofs elsewhere that we'll get to later in the video. But up here we have all of my Illumicrate editions of the Ali Hazelwood books. So I'll go from bottom to the top. We have The Love Hypothesis, Love on the Brain, Love Theoretically, Check and Mate, Not in Love, Problematic Summer Romance, and then Deep End at the top there. And then on the left I have the Bride hardback proof, the Mate hardback proof, and then Bride and Mate in the Illumicrate editions. And then finally this bottom shelf is a bit of a random mix of special editions and kind of standard hardbacks that just don't have a home anywhere else. So just at the back here I have the Fairyloot editions of the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber, then the Fairyloot editions of the Fourth Wing series. This is the, I don't know what this is called exactly, you'll be able to tell from the spine. This is the Rebecca Ross A River Enchanted. I want to say it's like deluxe edition or something like that this is called, but it's still available. Similarly, this is like a deluxe edition of When the Moon Hatched, and then just a standard, I think this is the first edition hardback of To Bleed a Crystal Bloom. So starting off on the top shelf in like the middle one of those three that I have behind me, this is the Throne of Glass. These are actually the standard UK hardbacks. They are the older style hardbacks, but I don't know what I've done with the older style dust jacket. So for all intents and purposes, these could be any standard UK hardback, but these have the, what dust jackets are these? I cannot for the life of me remember who has designed these dust jackets. If I remember, I'll put some text on the screen or I will put it in the description box of the video. It's a bit of a moot point because they don't actually do them like this anymore. They updated the design a while back. I do prefer the original design actually. So there were some that were similar to this but that had more foiling on them, and then I think they've stopped doing them completely now. But I will show you all these because they are beautiful. So here is the Assassin's Blade. Throne of Glass you guys just saw. Here is Crown of Midnight. This one is Heir of Fire. This one is possibly my favourite design on all of them. This is Queen of Shadows. Empire of Storms. This is a Lemurian quartz flame, by the way, just in case anyone's wondering. Tower of Dawn. And the final book, Kingdom of Ash. I just really enjoy how these all fit perfectly in one of these little cubes. I think no matter how many times I move my bookshelves around, these will always be within their own little like section. This next shelf is a real mix of authors and things. They're all special editions. Oh, actually they're not. Quite a few of these are special editions. The towers I have here are Moss Argate Carnelian, and then that one is just a normal Moss Argate one. So these are the standard hardbacks of Serpent and the Wings of Night and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I did get to meet Carissa Broadbent last year, so I did get some signed book plates to bring back for these. So book 1 and book 2 have those book plates in. Book 3 came as a signed edition. I think I picked this up at Waterstones when it released. And book 4 is the Waterstones exclusive with the signature on the end page. One of my other favourite series you're probably going to see quite a bit is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. And I also have book 2, Ruthless Vows. These two are the Fairyloot editions. I then have One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. I got these from Barnes & Noble, shipped through my stackery over to the UK. I'm not sure if these were Barnes & Noble exclusive or just like a US exclusive in general. And then I have the Fairyloot edition of The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. There's a super cute little selenite snowflake that I found to add to my Quicksilver section. But on here I have the hardback, like the sprayed edge editions of Quicksilver, and then next to that is Brimstone as well. There's 2 random crystal pendulums on here. There's a strawberry quartz and a rose quartz one. This is, I'm seeing this called the Golden Edition. It's from the US. I'm not sure if it's available everywhere in the US, but this is the Shield of Sparrows. I then have the Waterstones exclusive of the Wolf King. The first edition, this is like a red sprayed edge of To Cage a Wild Bird. The Fairyloot edition of Crimson Moth, the Waterstones exclusive of Shield of Sparrows, and the Waterstones exclusives of Metal Slinger. This is just kind of like ongoing fantasy series that I'm loving, or in the case of Metal Slinger, excited to read. Except for Crimson Moth, I just don't have book 2 to that yet, so it didn't really have anywhere else to sit. It fits on here. Let me just move that candle out of the way. Again, on here, a real mix, mainly Waterstone special editions with some proofs in there as well. I have the Waterstones exclusive of The Dagger and the Flame and The Rebel and the Rose, and then in between the two I have the Fairyloot edition of that book. Waterstones exclusives of On Wings of Blood and The Bond That Burns by Bri Boleyn. These are the UK hardback proofs of The Wolf King and The Night Prince, which you guys know I love. And then signed Waterstones exclusives of Daughter of No Worlds and Children of Fallen Gods. I have got the third one of these on pre-order and the third one of these on pre-order. They just aren't out yet. This next shelf is really easy. I just have an Arcane edition of Helen Scheuer's Blood and Steel, and then Vows and Ruins. I have ordered the other 2 of these books to come, but these are the only 2 that are out currently. Something else you'll see a lot on my shelves is Crystal Foxes. I have a real penchant for Crystal Foxes. I think I have 6 or 7 maybe around the house, and then I've got like another 3 ordered, so yeah, here's a moss one. And then there's 2 Moss Argate like cylinders here as well, which I'm just going to leave because they're a bit temperamental. So starting on the right this time, I have, I don't know if these were Waterstones exclusives or just first print run exclusives, but I have Phantasma and Enchantra by Kaylee Smith with the black sprayed edges. These are the standard paperbacks of the Sacred Stones trilogy in the wrong order. I don't know why they're back to front. And then to work my way up from the bottom of this pile, this is a proof of A Study in Drowning and the Theory of Dreaming proof. All of my other reproofs are down here except for Inamorata actually. Can't really see because it's behind the cylinders, but this is Fable for the End of the World and Lady Macbeth, also by Ava Reid. Then we have The Gravewood by Kelly Andrew. This is a brand new title from Wayward that I have the proof for. I'm really excited to read that one. I think that one's vampires, which I love. And then I have the proofs for Phantasma and Enchantra as well, but as you can see I loved it so much I then had to go and get the paperbacks too. And right on the top, In the Veins of Drowning, just so I remind myself to read it because I'm really looking forward to reading this book. Just gonna move this candle out of the way, but it is a Belladonna candle, which it isn't like related to the books, but it felt clever to have it up here. And then I have another Moonstone Sphere here. These are the standard UK hardbacks of Akatar, but they have the, how do you pronounce this artist's name? Alithian? dust jackets on them. These are really difficult to find nowadays. I think Illumicrate did these, and actually you can see that the one for book 5 doesn't fit the hardback that I have for book 5. I don't know if you can tell like where the spine should end and where it actually ends is different. That's because when this book was first printed and these dust jackets were made, book 5 was skinnier. That's all of those. I do wonder whether they will do a reprint for those maybe when some more ACOTAR books come out, or whether I'm destined to just have the first 5. And then up here I also have the Fairyloot editions of Belladonna, Foxglove and Wisteria. I do have the Fairyloot edition of Holly pre-ordered, but I think this one is actually the Waterstones exclusive. Yes, it is, just so I could have a copy of that book to read. This next shelf is quite possibly my favourite in my entire collection. I don't actually know what this is. This is some kind of fire quartz, but I'm trying to show you the flash. You can't see it. There is a blue flash in that, which is unusual for fire quartz. And then I have literally a million of the Enchanted Oddities bookmarks up here. These are beautiful. These are my favourite bookmarks that I own, so they kind of exist here on display and just so I could easily grab them. And then you guessed it, she is the moment. These books I haven't shut up about all year. This is the extent currently of my Blood and Steel collection, but I do have a number of other special editions and I will get the new Tradpub editions when they come out as well, so expect this section to grow. But for now I just have, oh actually this isn't the entirety, we've already seen the Arcane ones. These are the Bookish and Spice. It's an Australian book special edition company. This is the Bookish and Spice editions of the series, and then from the bottom up, these bottom 4 are the standard indie paperbacks. If anyone wants to see my full kind of rundown of this series and my reading orders and like all the editions I own of this, I have got a video on that. I'll link it at the end, or I'll put it in the description box, but I have got a full reading guide to this world if you want to go and see that. And then on the top, this one was the US arc done by a PR company called NerdFam for Iron and Embers when that came out, and then also from NerdFam is a foiled edition of book 1 that I'm really sad I won't be able to get the rest of the series foiled, but I'm happy that I have book 1 at least. Next up is the proof shelf. Now this is one of a few proof shelves, and this one generally has some of my favourite books of all time on it that all just happen to be the same height. So similar to what I had on the other side, where I had like the Carissa Broadbents and the Helen Scheurer and the Shield of Sparrows, those ones are all a different height, so I keep those together. And then this is my shelf of proofs that are all this like taller height. So I'm just going to do right to left this time. I have Divine Rivals, Ruthless Vows and Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross. This is the taller proof of To Cage a Wild Bird from Brookfast, but still the UK one. I have On Wings of Blood and The One That Burns by Briar Bolin. This is the new kind of traditionally published proofs that they did. Dark Forgetting by Kristen Ciccarelli. And then also The Crimson Moth and the Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli, and The Sacred Space Between by Kaylee Reed. On this shelf is a mix of some indie hardbacks and some US hardbacks. I am going to show these ones off a bit. So this is the US, I think this is the first print edition or an exclusive of Hollow by Carolyn Beckham and Susan Valenti. Similarly, they did US editions of Echo Fort and Neverkeep from the Neverkeep series, or the Sins of the Zodiac series. And then I have the US Fourth Wing with the Dragon Edges. This was the first print edition. I have the Holiday edition with the black sprayed edges. I have Iron Flame, and again this came with plain black edges. This is the first print edition. And Onyx Storm, which came with some sprayed edges as well. I do actually have more of this series somewhere. I've already shown you the hardbacks I have. There are some paperbacks somewhere. I have some international editions and some other copies of this. I think they're in a box somewhere. I know when I moved off my shelves, I moved a lot of my duplicates into a box into storage. So I think Fourth Wing is one of those series I've done that with. I'm probably going to sound really controversial right now, but I've actually kind of gone off the Fourth Wing series a little bit. I enjoyed book 1 so much. Book 2 was a bit of a letdown for me. Anyway, this is not a Fourth Wing review. Book 3 I haven't read yet. I'm too scared to go into it because of how I felt about book 2. But just in case you're wondering why I took some of that off my shelf, I felt like having 2 or 3 editions out was enough. And then over here I have the Greenwich and Lennox, Riftborn, Duskbound and Ascended. These are the indie hardback editions. This little TBR sign, it came from a bookstore in Canada. My friend Laura actually picked this up for me on her travels. And then on here I have a mix of indie paperbacks and then also some proofs. So this really shiny silver one on the end is my proof of Quicksilver. And then I also have both UK proofs of Arcana Academy. So I'll just show you this orange one. And then the order of this is really going to wind people up, but I think it's just because I only just got Fate So Dark and Delicate. So actually, let's reorder this as we go. Or I guess I'll put them back in order. So we have a Fate So Dark and Delicate. This is book 4 of the, what's this series called? The Compelling Fate Saga. So I've got the first 3 books at the bottom here. I have the 3 books that are currently out in the White Horse Black Knights or the God Kissed Bride series. of Blood and Ether by Harper Hawthorne. And then at the bottom we have the original indie edition of Metal Slinger. That might please some more of you. I think those top 4 are now in order. And then down here, this is my alien smut shelf, or one of a few alien smut shelves, I guess. These are actually called star beings. They're like little crystal alien heads. I have 2 of them. Also, something I didn't mention is my shelves are definitely built wrong. So if you see any of these little like things that should be on the bottom, no you didn't. Also in here I have a Fairyloot tarot card binder, which does have some Fairyloot tarot cards in there, mainly ones from kind of my favourite series. I have some older ones like Throne of Glass and Crescent City, but also I now have started collecting the Gemlin cards, so I have a bunch of Gemlin cards kind of hidden within here as well. The other thing you're going to see as we get lower down my shelves is like random artwork just shoved on top of things. So this, I can't show you it all because it's very spicy, some of it, but I can show you the sticker sheets, I think. These are the sticker sheets and artwork that Victoria Aveline sends out as part of her Patreon, which I'm a member of. So I think it's just the 5 sticker sheets so far. I would be so sad if I'm missing one, but yeah, that's what's all here. On the left hand side, these are all signed copies of the Ice Planet Barbarians series I've been picking up as they've been coming out from Forbidden Planet. And then here on the right we have, this is the Choosing Theo or the Clarkanian series. Again, these are the Fey Crate editions. I will be getting the rest of them as they come out, but for now I just have these 5. Just gonna move this down. This is the Illuma Crate from Blood and Ash Dagger that they did in the box when they did the first book of the set. And then behind that I have the Illuma Crate editions from Blood and Ash. I did say we'd be seeing some more of this series. I think this is the last special edition I have. Oh no, there is one more to go. But yes, this is just the first 4 books because that's all they've done so far for the series. I then also have, these are the Goldsborough editions. They're signed and numbered. These are the Plated Prisoner series hardbacks by Raven Kennedy. So I have all 6 of those. A bunch of Golden Healer up here that I'm not going to move, but this is the Waterstones exclusive of Arcana Academy, the Fairyloot edition of Arcana Academy. This, I believe, is the... Oh, I just said I wasn't getting anything out and here I am. This is the TikTok shop exclusive of Wild Reverence. Then we have, this is just a standard copy of The Fall and the Kiss of Dusk. I'm going to give this to a friend because I have 2. The Waterstones Deluxe edition of Heavenly Bodies. I need to pick up book 2 now that it's out. And also the Fairyloot edition of Silver Cloak. Moving down a shelf, we have more special edition hardbacks. So on the end, this is the TikTok shop exclusive of Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. I then have the Fairyloot editions of these Hollow Vows, these Twisted Bonds, and Beneath These Cursed Stars. I missed the sale for the 4th one, so I'm going to have to try and pick that one up secondhand. But I love this series. I don't talk about it a lot now, but particularly when I read it, it was everything. I was so obsessed with it. This is the TikTok shop exclusive of the Crimson Moth and the Rebel Witch. This has just come out at the time that I'm filming this. It's not public knowledge, so I don't know if it's sold out or if it's still in stock, but maybe check my TikTok if you're still looking for these 2. This is the Fairyloot edition of the Poison Study series by Maria Snyder. I have all 6 of those and they're all signed. A random Bath & Body Works Christmas candle there. I believe these are the Fairyloot edition of the Ember in the Ashes series by Sabaa Tahir, which is one of my favourite series of all time. I had to track these down secondhand and they were extortionate, but I have them. And they're never leaving my collection. And then I have the Illuma Crate editions of A River Enchanted and A Fire Endless by Rebecca Ross as well. More special edition hardbacks on this shelf, and these ones are a bit more of a mix, I guess. So from top to bottom here, I have 7 Deadly Thorns. This is the Fairyloot edition. In fact, all of these except for the bottom one are Fairyloots. The Helen Scheurer Iron and Embers, Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber, and then these are the trio of the Adrian Young kind of magical realism or contemporary fantasy, I guess, standalones. And then the Alchemy of Secrets at the bottom is the Waterstones exclusive. And then moving across, we have, this is one of my favourite editions I own actually, and I don't talk too much about this. This is, I think this is the Broken Binding. Let me check. Who made this? It's the Broken Binding Blood over Brighthaven. This is honestly one of my favourite books I've ever read actually, and such a gorgeous design. Then we have the Fairyloot edition of Immortal Consequences and Fable for the End of the World. This is the Illuma Crate edition of The Second Death of Locke. The Fairyloot Fallen City by Adrian Young. This Monster of Mine is a really random standard hardback. Why is it on the shelf? I couldn't tell you, it just is, it just fit the vibes. The first 2 here of Iron and Embers and Thorns and Fire by Helen Scheurer are the international editions with these sprayed edges. Book 3 is just a standard edition, but I do really need to try and track down the international edition of book 3. The Fairyloot edition of Temptation of Magic and A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faizal. Temptation of Magic is another book I've got quite a lot of copies of. This is the only Fairyloot one, like it's the Fairyloot edition that's here, but I have a lot of standard hardbacks and paperbacks downstairs, I think. And this is by Megan Scott. Some more Carissa Broadbent, just because they didn't fit on that other shelf really. I've got a standard hardback of 6 Scorched Roses, and then the Waterstones exclusive of Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. And then another copy of Blood over Brighthaven. I think this is the Waterstones edition. I don't think it's signed, I think it just has a red sprayed edge. This shelf has a whole bunch of indie paperbacks on it that are different sizes, but this is kind of next to where those indie hardbacks were. So a couple of indie proofs in here as well. So at the top on this side I have Hollow, which is, this is the proof version from Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti, and then also the indie proofs of the first 2 books in the Sins of the Zodiac series. Then from Carissa Broadbent and Helen Scheurer I have Slaying the Vampire Conqueror and Slaying the Shadow Prince. These series are part of a 5-book collection with a bunch of different authors, but these 2 I have read all, no I haven't, I've read the first 3 or 4 I think. I've read 4 of the 5 of them, but these ones happen to connect to series that I really love, so I have them in both their original indie print and then also in their indie like discreet cover. This is the indie author exclusive edition of Lady of Darkness. So this is trad pubbed in the UK. I guarantee by the time I've uploaded this it's been picked up in the US or something as well, but this is the editions you can get off the author's website or at signings. You can't buy these in the UK, but I went to a signing in the US and that is where I picked this up. At the same signing I picked up 2 novellas, so Unrelenting Winds and then also The Reaper, so these sit next to it on the shelf. The next 4 books are the Apollycon editions of the From Blood and Ash series. So far they've done From Blood and Ash, Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, Crown of Gilded Bones and Shadow in the Ember. These are slight colourway changes on the original paperbacks and they have the Apollycon logo on there. The next is a random mix of tall indie paperbacks that just all are the same height. So I have Smoke and Scar and Splintered Kingdom. This is book 1 and 2 in the Shattered Crown series by Gretchen Powell Fox. Then we have Kissed by the Gods by Katie Grogan. The original indie prints of On Wings of Blood and The Bond That Burns, Direbound. All 3 of these have since been traditionally published, so I won't get the rest of the series in those covers. Till Death and Nevermore by Miranda Lynn. Another one of those slaying series that kind of connects to these Carissa Broadbent and Helen Scheurer ones. This one is set within one of Claire Sager's world. This is actually the only thing I've read from Claire Sager, but I really enjoyed it. I do need to get the series that this is connected to, if there is one. But I really love this, so I also bought that in a physical copy. And The Death Made Prince by Lizette Marshall, which is an indie book that came out this year, and it's really high on my TBR. These are my crystal dragons, and I'm not going to take them off the shelf, but you can see there are a number of them. Everything on this shelf is a Bookish Box edition, so I have the Bookish Box Zodiac Academy set, and then also the Ruthless Boys set. And on this side is an Air Comes to Rise series by Chloe C. Peñaranda. And this bottom shelf is again a real mix, mainly fantasy paperbacks down here, so I'll just run through them quickly. You'll see lots of crystals hiding. These are what I use a lot for my Instagram images, so they're just kind of like tucked away safe up there. So, starting over on this side, I have Gallant by V.E. Schwab, A Winter's Promise. I have 3 books from the Daughter of the Drowned Empire series. Dagger and the Flame, this is the sprayed edge edition from Waterstones, I believe. And Caraval, Legendary and Finale. These are the 5-year anniversary paperbacks. Then I have The Notorious Virtues. This is the Waterstones edition. The Cupidity series from Raven Kennedy. These are the standard UK paperbacks for the Lady of Darkness series. And then I also have the standard UK paperbacks for the Plated Prisoner series. And then at the bottom, just behind here, these are the Waterstones editions, or the sprayed edge editions, I guess, of Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. I think they were only exclusive to Waterstones. I have up here one of the Illumicrate book pots. This is the Fantastical Forest one, and I keep all of my favourite bookmarks that I use regularly in here, and they just live up there. This is mainly proof copies, so just to run through them quickly, I have The Second Death of Locke, Direbound, Immortal, The Night and the Moth, Quicksilver and Brimstone. These are actually the trade paperback copies. I love this series so much and was desperate to have another copy, and I wanted like a nice floppy paperback, and I knew that they weren't doing proofs for book 2 onwards, so I thought I would get these. And then behind this little dragon, I have both versions of the UK When the Moon Hatched proof as well by Sarah A. Parker. A mix of some US-based special editions up here, and then also a bunch of fluorite. Let me just move that. So on the left, these are the Bookish Box editions of the Married to Magic series by Elise Cover. I think this was actually the first ever set that I got from Bookish Box. It's actually a set that they offered to send me. So at the time that they sent me this, they had just done the reprint, and then I bought books 4 and 5 as well. Another series I absolutely love is Jenna Wolfhart's Forged by Magic series, also known as the Falling for Fable series. This is the Fae Crate editions of the first 3 books. And then here I have the Owl Crate editions of the Shadow and Bone series, Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I have this ginormous cauldron candle that I just keep. This is so heavy. I just keep this on here, near my ACOTAR books. There's quite a lot going on this shelf, so let's quickly talk through it. Up here, this is actually the Illumicrate Throne of Glass mug. Now, most of the mugs I get from, there's some crystals in there really randomly. The mugs that I get from subscription boxes I often use, but this one I had to get second hand. I wasn't a subscriber when they did this, and it cost me way more money than a mug should cost. So it lives on here. I then have the original ACOTAR, ACOMAF, ACOWAR and Court Frost and Starlight UK paperbacks. This is the original UK proof copy for A Court of Thorns and Roses, which has been out for quite some time now. And then over on this side, I have the black Waterstones editions, I want to say. I don't think they're available anywhere else. They have black sprayed edges, the night court editions basically. Lots of people thought these were a huge gimmick, but I actually love them. You'll see that I don't have the standard paperbacks on here. They are somewhere else, but I prefer the black editions. And then I feel so lucky to own these. These are the Throne of Glass minis, just at the top here. If you don't know what these are, they did little mini character versions of these and they stopped printing them a few years ago. I really luckily already had a couple of them that I'd just been collecting. Like anytime I had a bit of spare money, I was buying one. They weren't very expensive at the time. I think they were like £8 or £9 each I got them for. And then they announced they weren't printing them anymore, so I ran to buy the rest of them that I didn't have, and again I think something that'll probably never leave my collection. Oh look, it's another fox. This time it is a Flower Argate one. Up here I have a proof copy of the Primal of Blood and Bone, proof copy of Catabasis. In fact, a lot of this is proof copies. These are the US proofs of the Adrian Young book, so Spells for Forgetting, Unmaking of June Farrow and Sea of Unspoken Things. And then at the bottom, this book doesn't actually come out until May, I think. This is Death's Daughter by S.A. Barnes. And then over on this side I have a proof copy of Bloodbound. This is the US proof of Fallen City, the proof of Season of Fear by Emily Cooper, and then this is the US paperback, I think. I don't know if they do any other paperbacks or if this is the only one, of The Invisible Life of Annie LaRue, and I grabbed this when I was in America. I don't own a ton of dark romance like in physical format, but if I do, it's probably on this shelf. I wonder if you can tell who was one of my favourite dark romance authors this year. On here I have a lot of K.M. Morinova, so I don't know if this was the original indie copy, but it is one of the indie versions of Leave Me Behind. I then have the proof copies of Leave Me Behind, Your Knife, My Heart and My Blade, Your Back, and then the sprayed edges that you see in between them are, I think these are the first print editions or the US first print editions. I grabbed these all on Amazon, I think. One of my favourite dark romances of all time, this is Nocticardia by Kerry Lake. I then also have a indie copy of Fairytale In the Dark by Chelsea Curto. This was actually a gift from my friend Laura. This Fisher's Dream, this one I picked up at a Polycon. It was an advanced copy that they were giving out at Stasia Stark's event. And then I have my indie copy of Anathema. This bottom shelf is real random. I have the TikTok shop exclusive of Good Spirits here. This doesn't go with anything else I own, so it just lives down here in all of its festive glory. There's a proof down here of Queen of Faces by Petra Lord. This is a standard hardback of The Rebel Witch, which I've had on my shelf, but now I have the TikTok shop exclusive. I'll probably be gifting that one to a friend. This is the broken binding edition of Catabasis. The Fairyloot editions of Book 1 and Book 2 for Crescent City, and then also a diabound proof. If you're wondering what this little pouch is up here, it has some of my Fairyloot tarot cards in it that just aren't my favourite, or they're from books that I haven't read, so they stay in here rather than in the folder of joy. Up here is a bunch of indie hardbacks and then also some special editions. Big Moss Agate Moon, let me just move that. So on the right here I have the Choosing Theo hardbacks. I actually picked these up when I met the author at Rare, and they all also have the overlays in there, I think. They do indeed all have the overlays in them. I'm hoping to pick up some more of these. I think I'm seeing Victoria at a signing in 2026, so hopefully I'll have the rest of them then. At the top are the Arcane editions of Brave, Torn and Wicked. This is the Wicked trilogy by Jennifer Armentrout. They gave us one of these in our bags at a Polycon last year, and then I bought the rest at the event. This is an Arcane edition of Order of Scorpions by Ivy Asher. Blood Mercy, this is a signing exclusive by Vela Roth. Rabid, I think this is also a signing exclusive by Raven Kennedy and Ivy Asher. This they don't do anymore. This is Reign of Shadows and Endings by Melissa K. Roherick, and this was a signing edition for 2025. And then on the bottom, this very mysterious book with nothing on the spine, I believe, is Miranda Lynn's Till Death. And it was a signing exclusive that I picked up at a Polycon. The next shelf we have some more tall indie paperbacks and then also some tall US paperbacks. Starting on the left this time, this is the Broken Kingdom series by LJ Andrews. This was actually, my friend Erin has been gradually buying me all of these. I'm a couple short, so I need to pick those up at some point, but I do have 6 of them now. I think there's 9 or 8 in total. More LJ Andrews. I have the indie version of The Ever King, The Ever Queen and The Mist Thief. And I got these signed when I met the author at Rare Edinburgh. Also from LJ Andrews, I think I got this in Edinburgh as well. This is Bonds of Fate. This is a collection of like short novellas from the Broken Kingdom series. So once I've read that, I'll be diving into this. And then I've been holding off reading the Broken Blade or the Halfling saga for the longest time, but I do have all of the lovely tall paperbacks for this series. This shelf should hopefully be pretty quick. Essentially, I have the signed editions of the Shatter Me series. These are the Fairyloot hardbacks, and then Watch Me as well on top. And then over on the left, also by Tahara Mafi, these are the Illumicrate editions of the This Woven Kingdom series. There is a lot of Emma Ham smut on this shelf. At the top, I have the signing exclusive paperback of A Darkness So Sweet. Oh, I've just found these on the top as well. These are some gorgeous stickers of some different Emma Hamm couples that came in her latest Patreon package. Here is that signing exclusive of A Darkness So Sweet. I grabbed this at a Polycon and I'll be grabbing the rest of this series if she has them this year. Also, just came in my Patreon package, but I think by the time I upload this, this will be out in the world now. This is A Light So Blinding, which is book 2 to A Darkness So Sweet. This is the original indie paperback of Nightshade by Autumn Woods, and then also the indie special edition that she did a print run of. I then also have the signing editions or special editions of Whispers of the Deep, Song of the Abyss, and Echoes of the Tide. I don't know if you can tell in the video, but my Song of the Abyss got like damaged on the way home, so I'm going to replace that and then buy the other 2 books in that series I don't have in special editions this year at Polycon. I also picked up the hardback special edition, which is basically the same as the paperback special edition, but in hardback, of A Darkness So Sweet. And then this at the bottom is a novella compendium from Emma Hamm, Zoe Draven and Juliet Cross called The Lovely Dark, with some different novellas that connect to the rest of their worlds in there. On the left are some Lit Haven editions, so we have Nocticardia, The Book of Azrael and Hellfire. This shelf again should be pretty straightforward, and as you can see I have a nice gap in here for something else that's this size, but I have the Lightlark special edition, so Lightlark, Nightbane, and then the Grimm and Oro like tete-a-tete flip style book. And then I also have, again in the wrong order for some reason, Serpent and Dove, Blood and Honey and Gods and Monsters. These are the original Fairyloot editions, which I had to get secondhand because again I didn't know Fairyloot existed when they did these. They're super basic but super lovely editions, and yeah, I'm really happy I have these in my collection. This is one of my favourite series of all time. I know a lot of people have problems with this one. I loved it. Another really random shelf down here, and sorry it's getting a bit dark. I'm really worried about how I'm going to light that corner. But yeah, number of different indie special editions here and then some indie paperbacks. So at the top on the left here, I have the Bourbon Boys series by Victoria Wilder. This was a indie special edition of Behind the Broken and Inside the Wicked. This is a dark romance duology from Chloe C. Peñaranda that I got at Rare Edinburgh. One of my favourite dark romance or taboo romance series of all times. This is the Hades series by Tate James. Oh, in a big old compendium, and then the Bookish Box editions of Shadow and Moonlight. Also, this is a sealed Bookish Box edition that I just haven't opened yet. This is Wooing the Witch Queen. One Pucked Up Pack by Sarah Blue, also Bookish Box. This is a Credence signing edition that I picked up at Rare London. And I can't remember who the bookstore is that does this, but this is the special edition hardback of Ice Planet Barbarians that's out there. I have just whacked the light on for this next bit, so apologies if the lighting change is quite drastic. But this back corner just gets no natural light and it just was pitch black back here. This is especially where it starts to get really random, but I'm just going to work my way right to left. Behind this moss kind of 3-part dragon, I have, this is A Love Beyond the Stars. This I picked up at a Polycon last year, and it is a really gorgeous kind of like foiled edition with sprayed edges. Then I also have Halfling and Ironling. These are by S.E. Wendell and they're really great, spicy, cozy fantasy romances if that's your kind of thing. I have a signed copy of A Spark in the Shadows by G.L. Preston. A proof of Grave Matter from Karina Halle, and this is also a proof of Cursed Bite. One random indie edition of Duel with the Vampire King. Sorry, Duel with the Vampire Lord. My friend Emma gave this to me. I don't have any of the other indies of this series, but as you can see I do have a lot of Elise Cover indies, so this is where it lives. I then have the entire Tournament of Crowns series. This is one of my favourite Elise Cover series of all time, and yeah, I just love the whole thing so much, so I have all 5 of them. And then I also have Elise Cover's indie editions of the Loom Saga here as well. And then really randomly on the end is Fireheart by Emma Hamm. It just didn't really fit with the Whispers of the Deep ones. This is one of her fantasy books, so it's over here. I'm struggling to reach now. This stack has some of my UK traditionally published Elise Cover books on it, particularly the Married to Magic series, and then also some Riley Sager thriller books at the top. I haven't read these yet, but I think if I read any thrillers, this is what it'll be. Back here is my little TBR prompt cup and a Kelly Hart Quicksilver like travel cup that I got at a Polycon. So over on this back section, we have a standard US copy of Exquisite Ruin by Adrian May, proof of The Deathless One by Emma Hamm. There's also US proof there of Bring Me Your Midnight by Rachel Griffin. I also really randomly have one US proof from Carissa Broadbent. This is Songbird and the Heart of Stone. 2 more books by G.L. Preston, and then also Soul Gazer on the end. This shelf is more kind of standard fantasy paperbacks, I guess. They're a little bit split up, so sorry in advance if you hate the way this is set up. I have a little Lorcan and a lead, kind of like Funko Pop here, and then there's a Poppy and Castile one over on this side. Actually going to start on this side first, so I have paperbacks of Throne of the Fallen, My Throat and Open Grave, and Enchantment of Ravens and Sorcery of Thorns. Then we have paperbacks of One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns, the Waterstones exclusive paperback of A Study in Drowning, and a proof copy of Tusk Love. In this pile I have a paperback of Spells for Forgetting, Unmaking of June Farrow. This is the Sea of Unspoken Things proof, and then I have a bunch more Adrian Young here. So Fable, Namesake, Saint, Tides and Drift. And then I have 2 Adeline Grace books here as well, which I haven't read yet. Really randomly up here I have one to Sonia Odette book, and then I have the other two on this side, but this is the Fair Isles trilogy. And then a traditionally published version of Nightshade and the Waterstones. No, it's not. This is a The Works exclusive. And, sorry Lorcan, standard paperbacks of Kingdom of the Wicked. Behind Lorcan we have the standard paperbacks that are currently out of the Serpent and the Wings of the Night series, and also the Last Namsara series by Kristen Ciccarelli. This shelf looks absolutely mental, but it is because I've got all of the Illumicrate book pots up there at the top. So again, starting on the left, I'll tell you what this white book is in a second, but I have the Prison Healer trilogy in paperback, Fourth Wing and Iron Flame in paperback, Defy the Night in paperback, and then Unbound by Penelope Bloom at the top. In this middle section, I have The Night of the Witch and the Fate of Magic by Beth Revis and Sarah Rash. I then have the standard UK paperbacks of Spark of the Everflame and also of Crescent City. Standard UK paperbacks of ACOTAR, and then I have my proof of Heavenly Bodies and Fallen Stars here, as well as a proof of Shadow Reaper by Lynette Noni, and at the top a copy of The Dark Lord's Guide to Dating. Just to show this book off, this book is my favourite in my entire collection. You know when people say like what's the one book you'd run in to save? It's this one. This is actually a custom bound book that I got on my wedding day off my very dear friends. This is all of the chapters from the final two books of the Throne of Glass series that are in either Alede or Lorcan's perspectives. Alede and Lorcan are one of my all-time favourite book couples. Like to this day they might rank as my favourite ever. So for my wedding day, my friends bound their love story, just their chapters, into a bit of a custom book for me, and it looks quite weddingy as well. And then I cried more at this than I did at my actual wedding. This was such a meaningful gift. I genuinely think I will be buried with this. We are now working around the confines of what is my Spinny bookcase. We'll go through that as well, but we're just going to have to bear with me whilst we get through what's behind it. So starting in this back corner, I have my proofs of First Time Caller and Now Back to You. I then have my Afterlight edition of First Time Caller. In fact, all the special editions on the shelf are Afterlight editions. I also have a bunch of Oracle cards on here. I'm a big Oracle deck person. And then this is some random extra attachments for my Coach bags. Afterlight editions all here as well. So I have Do Your Worst, Loath to Love You, Good Spirits, and then the L. Kennedy of Campus series. This is the remainder of my Ali Hazelwood arc. So I have 3 hardbacks. This Love Hypothesis one, by the way, is just like the standard special edition version that you can get, but if you take the dust jacket off it, it looks a bit like an arc, and I don't think they did hardback arcs for book 1, so it helps me feel like my collection's a bit more complete. And then up at the top here, these are the Works editions of Bride and Mate. I have both Good Spirits UK proofs that are both signed by BK Borison, standard paperback of Problematic Summer Romance, and then the rest of these are proofs as well. So I have Wildfire by Hannah Grace, Holiday Ever After by Hannah Grace, and then a couple more Ali Hazelwoods at the bottom there. Here we have like a bunch of random indie books, hardbacks that don't really fit with anything else. This is kind of like the mismatch shelf that just doesn't really have a home. So over in this back corner, we have the TikTok shop exclusives of the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, and the Christmas Tree Farm. I also have the deluxe edition of the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, so I don't know which order it's in, but one of them is a TikTok shop exclusive and one of them is a deluxe edition. Up here is a lot of my monster romance, and quite a few of these are special editions that I've picked up at different events. So this is the Cleo Evans, I think this was a signing edition, it's like a mini version of Nocturnal. One of the cutest books I own is this edition of Pucking Monsters by Cleo Evans and Ashley Bennett, and it has 2 different festive novellas in here. I then have the Ashley Bennett indie editions of the Muscles and Monsters series. There is a signing edition there of Lavender Moon by Sarah Blue. X-Clan, also signing edition, I think it's a foiled one by Lexi C. Foss. I absolutely love Lexi C. Foss's Omegaverse books. These are both signed. I love the Monster Smash Agency series by Catherine Moon, so I have Games with the Orc and Howl for the Gargoyle. Also signed, I have Captive of the Horde King by Zoe Draven. Ensnared was a gift the other Christmas from my friend Jess. I'm still too scared to read this, and I think she only got it so I could read it and tell her about it. And then some signed copies of some books by Jamie Applegate Hunter at the bottom that I actually picked up for free at Rare on their free book table. Moving over to these hardbacks, again, they're all just kind of like duplicates or random sizes or like just didn't have another home. So I think this is the US like first print run of the new traditionally published version of Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRue and the US edition of North is the Night by Emily Rath. These two are just standard hardbacks, just Immortal Consequences and Watch Me by Tahara Mafi. Then I have the Fairyloot editions of The Scarlet Veil and The Shadow Bride. Up here is Visions of Flesh and Blood. This one's a bit of a compendium of just information about the From Blood and Ash series, and it didn't quite fit on my shelf with the others, so it didn't really feel like it was as part of the series as much as the others did. I had to get rid of one. This is the one that lives down here instead. Another copy of Lightlark. So what happened is I had this copy of Lightlark and then I found a set that had Lightlark, Nightbane and the Orrowan Grimm that was pretty cheap, so I bought that, and then now I just have a spare Lightlark. I need to give this to a friend. Beautiful indie hardbacks of the Rivalry of Hearts or Faithlings and Corset Strings series, just the first 2 books. I don't think there's any more out at the moment. And then here I have some of the KM Moranova signing exclusives, so Leave Me Behind and Ballad of Phantoms and Hope. This last shelf is pure chaos. There's just, I couldn't even categorize the information on here, but also as you can see there's loads of stuff up here. So this is a candlestick holder. I have a bunch of Blood and Steel stuff hidden up here. So there's some badges, there's some overlays. Oh, here are some stickers from something. This came with my original foiled edition of Blood and Steel, and it's got like little art in there that you open when you reach certain chapters. So let's quickly run through these books. Starting off on this side this time, we have, this is just the standard paperback editions. In fact, I think everything, unless I say otherwise, is a standard paperback on here. So we have the Princess Knight, the Lamb, and then the Neon Gods or the Dark Olympus series. Over here I have a couple of proofs that are a bit of an odd height. So I have Immortal Consequences and Air of Illusion. Also proof of House of Bane and Blood, Terror at the Gates, and the Crimson Moth. This one you're going to see a bit later in the video as well. I actually have 2 copies of this. I need to find a friend who loves Scarlet St. Clair and give them my spare copy. I just ended up getting sent 2 for whatever reason. So I've got one up here and one downstairs, but I'll show you that shortly. Crimson Moth standard paperback. These are some random book tins from various places. So the first 2, the Throne of Glass and Zodiac Academy ones, are from the Bookish Box, and then Book of Eyes I think is from Fairyloot or Illumicrate. This is the Lit Haven. No, it's not. Lit Joy edition of Temptation of Magic by Megan Scott. And then in the back here are a bunch of proofs and then also some bookish cookbooks. So there's an Akatar and a Twilight cookbook. Legends and Lattes proof. This one I was going to give to a friend who really loves Travis Baldry, but my puppy has actually eaten this copy, so it has to stay now, and it's signed. There's a Scarlet Veil proof there, my Lucy Jane Wood proofs, these Hollow Vows proof, and then a Immortal Dark proof at the bottom. So this is my Spinny bookshelf. This holds the majority of my romance, and everything on here, pretty much unless I tell you otherwise, is just a standard paperback. So starting off strong here, this is my favourite romance series of all time. It's the Eden series by Devney Perry. This is a bit of a random section. I have a pack for winter, a pack for autumn. This is the Works edition of Soul Searching by Lila Sage. Fight by Sloane St. James, also the Works edition. And then this one on the end, Beyond the Thistles, does not fit at all height-wise, but it don't fit anywhere else either. This was a Bookish Box event edition of Beyond the Thistles by Samantha Young. Then I have, these are the older style paperbacks of the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. And last but not least for this top section is the Pumpkin Spice Cafe or the Dream Harbour series by Laurie Gilmore. Another one of my favourites, this is the Catherine Cowles Sparrow Fall series here in its entirety. Another Samantha Young book, this one is her newest one at the time I'm filming this. This is Half Light Harbour, and then also the Tate James Dear Reader set. Another random mix, I have Good Spirits by B.K. Borison, Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is another edition of Beyond the Thistles by Samantha Young, and then also Unromance by Erin O'Connor. No, just Erin Connor, not O'Connor. The Works editions of Out of the Woods and People Watching by Hannah Bonham Young, and then also the Simple Wild series by K.A. Tucker. If you're wondering what's like on the top here, by the way, because you will see it as I spin it around, there is just a Kindle sleeve, and then this is my favourite ever planner. It's the Productivity Method by Grace Beverley. This is like a brand new one that I'm ready to open as soon as my other ones run out. Again, real random mix. Some of my favourite dark romance. We have Nefessa Allen on here, Caught Up and Lights Out. Endless Anger, I haven't read this yet, but it looks really good. And then Five Brothers by Penelope Douglas. More Tate James, this time it's the Hades series. And again, Tate James, this is the Madison K. I feel like I'm going to get asked a question about this. This is Vault. Vault is a little collection of novellas or bonus chapters, I guess, that kind of go at the end of the series. She did that as a signing exclusive for Rare Edinburgh. I feel like she's probably done them since as well, but she's made it the same height as the kind of traditionally published books, which I really appreciated. Again, another random collection. I've got a Blackthorn proof here, Enigma by Runix, Gothicana, The Fabric of Our Souls by Kaya Moronova, and Wolf E by Paisley Hope. So ignore this box back here. This is just a flat packed box that I've got in case I need to send anything at any point. It's just tucked behind the bookcase. On the front here, I have 3 books from the Lucky River Ranch series and then also the Wells Ranch series. These are the TJ Jones or WH Smith exclusives of the Wild Love series. They're like the foiled ones. Elsie Silver's Chestnut Springs series. All of these are signed, and then book 5 has a book plate in actually. And then on the other side of where Cash was, this is where the Lucky River Ranch series was on its side. I have some Mafia romances, the JT Geisinger Queens and Monsters series. I have the entire Legacy of God series in its traditional published version. This is just the paperback, so there's 2 on this side and then 4 over here. Some Jennifer Hartman, which I'm dying to read but terrified to get to. I have Older, The Wrong Heart Still Beating, and Lotus. The Sarah Kate Salacious Players Club series. This is one of my first forays into kind of more taboo spicy romance, and I still to this day think this is one of the best ones I've read, and I believe some of these are signed as well. Let me check. Yes, they are, because I got to meet the author at Rare Edinburgh, I believe. And then finally, those last bits on here. So obviously we saw the 2 God of Malice books earlier, the God of, what is it called? Legacy of God series. But I also have Bryn Weaver's, what are you called? Ruinous Love Trilogy down here too. So that is it for this room. We're about to head downstairs to my front room and have a look what I've got down there. I have 2 more kind of skinnier bookshelves down there, so definitely not as much as I have up here. So let's go and see that. I'm going to apologise in advance for the amount of lighting changes in this video. Unfortunately, as I've been filming it, like, it is the middle of winter. The sun was out for a solid hour, so I've had to turn the light on. Hopefully it's not too bad. But you guys just want to see the books, right? So let's go downstairs. Okay, for the next section of this video, we are now actually in my living room. Most of the books I own are in that kind of library office space that I have. But definitely over the last year or so, some have moved downstairs and onto the shelves behind me. This is a relatively new addition in my like book storage solution game, I guess. And there's no real rhyme or reason. I wish I could tell you like, oh, I put my duplicates down here or I just put standard editions, but it is a real mix of things. It's kind of just what fits. And as I've probably already mentioned in this video, I do keep a couple of books in my husband's office and also a couple in my bedroom, but those are all standard paperbacks. I'm probably not going to show you those. There's probably only 30 of those combined. So if they're not in my office upstairs, then they are probably going to be on the shelves behind me. I don't know how I'm going to manage to film this because some of these shelves are hidden by the sofa, but we'll do what we can. Without further ado, let's dive into these shelves too. Okay, this is probably going to be a terrible angle for this shelf, particularly the top section, mainly because, like, as you can see, I can just about reach up here. So I probably won't pull all of these out, but I'll give you a more in-depth look of the lower shelves at the very least. And again, I haven't actually tidied these shelves, so this is kind of very much what they look like on the reg. At the top, I'm just going to move this big old crystal dragon out of the way. And also there's a moonstone flame up here. So first up, starting on this side, we have the Waterstones exclusive of the Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson, and this just has a plain black edge. The reason I actually got this was because of the black cover. I really like the black colourway on this one. Up next, I have the Goldsboro editions of the Tales of a Monstrous Heart and Tales of a Deadly Devotion. I absolutely love this gothic romance series. This is by Jennifer Delaney, and these are the sprayed edges on these two. I'm not going to pull every single book down because I will be here all day, but just to go through the rest of the shelf, I have the Fairyloot editions of The Queen's Rising and The Queen's Resistance, and then also these are the Fairyloot Margaret Rogerson set, so Sorcery of Thorns and Mystery of Thorn Manor, Vespertine and An Enchantment of Ravens. And then on this top shelf, I am stood on the back of my sofa currently. There's a malachite candle here, which I'll just take off. And then these are the TikTok shop exclusives of The Hurricane Wars and A Monsoon Rising. I will show this one off. This is the Fairyloot edition of Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, which was such a fantastic read. I then have the Waterstones exclusive editions of Immortal Dark and Eternal Ruin, the Fairyloot edition of The House at Watch Hill by Karen Marie Moning. I have a standard hardback of Modern Divination. This is the Goldsboro edition of Season of Fear. And then on the end here is a standard hardback of The Enemy's Daughter by Melissa Poet. This is the next shelf I'll go through, and this is just kind of a mix of standard paperbacks and some proofs. There are some Moonstone pieces on here. I'm just going to move down a shelf for the time being. So going from the top down, I have this is the UK proof of Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. I have Frost by C.N. Crawford, What Blooms from Death by S.M. Gaither. This is an arc of Heir of Storms, also an arc of The Serpent's Bride. These actually are also arcs. This is The House Sapphire by Marissa Mayer, and then Thorn Season by Kira Azar. Standard paperback of The Temptation of Magic, standard paperback of A Fire in the Sky, and then also paperback of The Warm Hands of Ghosts. And then the last books on this shelf, I have my Arc of Terror at the Gates, an arc of an Arcane Inheritance. This is also a proof copy or an arc. This is The Sun and the Star Maker. And then these are the US, what are these? Like the sprayed edge paperbacks. Let me pull these out. Heartbroken. Well, let me grab that off the floor. This should just be called like Watch Becca damage her entire bookshelf. If you saw my copy of Glow go flying, no you didn't. So just to show you these are the US paperbacks. So they're a little taller. They have this like metallic sheen to them, and then they also have sprayed edges. These editions I actually took with me to get signed. And here is Glow of the Everflame, and again has those sprayed edges, and this is a copy I got signed. So I've just moved the crystals that were on this shelf out of the way, but in case anyone's curious, it's kind of a mix of Moonstone and some Moss Argate. I think, oh, actually, no, they're not. I was about to say I think all of these are standard hardbacks, but they're not. So they're standard hardbacks of Dawn of Onyx, Promise of Peridot, and Reign of Rose by Kate Golden. And then these are the Fairyloot editions of the Prison Healer series by Lynette Noni. And then the Sulin Tan ones on the end are the TikTok shop exclusives of Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and then also Heart of the Sun Warrior. Moving down from that shelf, I have some hardbacks here. I'll quickly whiz through kind of the rest of the shelf just because I'm aware that this bit is maybe less exciting than upstairs. A bunch of Moss Argate here, by the way, and some specimens just on the bottom. These are first edition hardbacks of the Crescent City series. These are all UK hardbacks, and the second book is signed. The first two as well, you might be able to see kind of poking out the top, have some overlays in them. I believe these are the Illumicrate overlays that I've put in here. Next to that, I have some Fairyloot editions. So the Fairyloot edition of Heir of Storms, Fairyloot edition of The Thorn Season, and the Fairyloot edition of Broken Souls and Bones by LJ Andrews. And then just behind this Moss Agate tower, I have Immortal. This is the Waterstones edition of Immortal by Sulin Tan. Across from that, I have a mix here of some proof copies and some standard paperbacks. So just on the edge here, I have the Fate of Wrath and Flame series by K.A. Tucker. This has just reminded me, I actually have some signed book plates for these books that I picked up at a Polycon that I need to stick in them because I've just checked and they don't have them in them yet. And then moving down from the top, up here, I have a copy of V.E. Schwab's The Near Witch. And then underneath that is In These Hallowed Halls. This is a Dark Academia kind of anthology collection. Beneath that is the Haunting Season and Winter Spirits. Both of these are, again, kind of like ghost stories, horror stories, wintry stories, bound in kind of a collection. And then I have Gilded and Cursed by Marissa Mayer. These are the sprayed edge paperback editions. One second. From this angle, you can see they have these sprayed edges the whole way around. I couldn't tell you how to get these. I think they did a very limited print run when they first released the paperbacks of them. It took me ages to track down book 1 secondhand, and book 2 I managed to grab in a W.H. Smith, or is it called T.J. Jones now? That's where I picked up book 2. I don't think these are available anymore. And then just for the rest of this shelf, I have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. These are proof copies of Modern Divination and Quiet Spells by Issa. And then also Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. This one is a proof copy at the bottom, just here. Underneath that one is a collection of odd-sized hardbacks, which all just happen to be the same size. I also have my little orange calcite money frog up here and a random candle. So on this side, I have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue hardback by V.E. Schwab, This Savage Song and Our Dark Duet. These are the Illumicrate editions. And then I also have, I think these ones are the Fairyloot editions of the Defy the Night series by Bridget Kemmerer. My villain origin stories that they did the first one, title first, author name second, but then they did book 2 and 3. Author name first, title second. That was the publishers though, that was the same on all of the copies, I think. That wasn't like a Fairyloot decision. But still, I look at this and it makes me a little sad. And then these were actually one of the first special editions I ever picked up secondhand. These are the Illumicrate editions of the Winner's Curse trilogy by Marie Rakowski. This was back in the day when special editions just got like a plain sprayed edge and a nude cover. Nonetheless, these are beautiful editions and I did really enjoy this series. Next to that shelf, I have a number of, these are all US paperbacks that all happen to be the same kind of height, but just don't really fit in with anything else I have. So the top here I have Lightlark, Nightbane and Skyshade by Alex Astor. Book 4 paperback is not out at the time that I'm filming this, so that's why book 4 isn't here. I also have a, let me show you this one, this is beautiful. Something they do in the US quite a lot is this like matte metallic sheen on their books. This is the same kind of sheen that was on the Spark of the Everflame books earlier, and it's on some of the others that I own as well. We don't do this in the UK, and I really like this like metallic, I don't know if that's picking up on camera, hopefully it is. I believe this is the Barnes & Noble exclusive, and I got this one stamped whilst I was at a Polycon last year. And then underneath that I have the 5 books that are out so far in the Bridge Kingdom series by Daniel L. Jensen. Now, they have technically adopted these covers in the UK as well now, but the US ones have this like gorgeous, again, like metallic, holographic-y kind of foiling on them that we just don't do on the UK ones, even though it's the same cover art. So I ended up picking up the US ones as well because I love how these look. And then on the end here, I have Furyborn, Kingsbane and Lightbringer. I don't know if they're in the right order. Hopefully they are. This is by Claire Legrand. I believe it's called the Imperium Trilogy. Just to drop down one from there, this is a mix of standard and special edition hardbacks. So starting on this side, near my plug socket, I have Cursebound by Sarah Larifi, Until the World Falls Down, The God and the Gumio, Voidwalker, this one is the Illumicrate edition, Bloodguard by CC Robinson, Ingblood Sister Scribe, and again, this is the Illumicrate edition. It is beautiful. This is the Fairyloot edition of Fall of Ruin and Wrath by Jennifer L. Armentrout. And then finally on the end, I have what I think is the Fairyloot edition of Air by Saba Tahir. On this shelf, I have a mix of some standard and special edition hardbacks, so we'll just quickly whiz through this one as well. Over on this side first, I have For Whom the Bell Tolls, and then also the Page and Wick edition of Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRue. This is a Waterstones exclusive edition of Neverthorn by Shannon Mayer, and then this is one of my, I think I have a few hardback copies of The Temptation of Magic. Here is one of them. Next up, I have the Goldsboro edition of A Fate Forged in Fire. This is a standard hardback of Fear the Flames. And then this is a standard edition of Wild Reverence, but this is a very special copy because this is the one I got signed when I went to go and meet the author for afternoon tea. So I can't get rid of this, even though I have 3 or 4 copies of this now. I then also have a hardback of Vesselless, and then on the end is a special edition of Tusk Love by Thea Guanzon. So this is the beautiful like holographic foiled version with the yellow edges. I feel like you're really seeing all the depths of my collection when we get down to these lower shelves. So on here, there are 2 hardbacks. I don't know why these are down here. I have multiple editions of Fae Bound. So this is the TikTok shop exclusive. I have some others knocking about as well, but I'm not sure why that's on the shelf. It apparently just fit here. Also the Ordeals by Rachel Greenlaw, and then I have a hardback of The Library of Shadows. This is one of the first indie books I ever bought, and this is a very, very well-loved battered copy of From Blood and Ash. You can tell it's like peeling everywhere. It is tabbed to all heck, but actually this is the copy of From Blood and Ash that I chose to take with me to a Polycon to get signed last year, just because of how well read, well loved it is. There's even a crack in the spine, which I'm usually really good at not cracking my spines, so you can tell how many times I've read this copy. Here we have some hardbacks of Divergent. So I think these are all US hardbacks, I'm not entirely sure. These are the beautiful metallic collector's editions of the first 3 though. So there's Allegiant, Insurgent, which is book 2. Oh, there I am, hello. And book 1, Divergent. I love these editions. These are actually the only copies of Divergent that I have nowadays, but it was one of my favourite series growing up. So I actually ended up picking these up secondhand because there was no way I could have got these when I was 14. I don't think I knew these existed when I was 14. And then also as a bit of a throwback, I've got some of the Nightworld. In fact, I think these are all 3 of the Nightworld paperbacks. They recently did a edition of like some mini hardbacks. There's 3 novellas in each of these. I think they did a collection of all 9 in hardbacks, and I so was close to buying those, but I think I just really love my original editions. And then sorry the lighting is probably terrible down here, but this is the final shelf in this bottom corner. I have the special editions of the Kings of Avalier series by Leah Stone. All 4 of them don't fit next to each other, so I've got book 1 on the top there and then the other 3 just here on the side. This is the first lot library book that I ever bought. This is All the Dead Lie Down by Kiri Macaulay. I then have standard hardbacks of Ledge, Chasm and Valley by Stacey McEwen. These have been on my list for so long, I haven't read them. But I've kept the hardbacks because I think they're beautiful. I then also have a copy of Divine Rivals. Again, this is another book I have many, many copies of, but this one specifically is the copy that I did my first ever book club read of this book with, so it's all tabbed up with the book club chapters and things like that, so I like keeping it, and I think it's also a first edition hardback. I then have a signed standard hardback of The Unmaking of June Farrow, the collector's edition of A Court of Thorns and Roses, but I bought this at a time where I just got rid of the slipcase, like I didn't care about that apparently. And then the Locked Library edition of The Book of Witches, which I don't really think is a book that I'm interested in reading, but it is so beautiful that I can't bring myself to get rid of it, so it lives down here. That is everything. There is some stuff I've not covered. I mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you couldn't remember that far back, that I have like some books in my husband's office. I have some boxes of books hidden around, like in storage. I have some books in my bedroom, but this is the majority of everything. There are definitely some proofs that I've kind of got like wrapped up somewhere, and some like first edition hardbacks I just can't bring myself to get rid of, but like they don't really feel relevant to what I talk about anymore, so I just don't have them on my shelves. I have limited space, and I'm very lucky that I have a lot of limited space, but it is still limited. There's only so many books I can fit on these shelves. But hopefully that was interesting. I hope you enjoyed a library tour. I'm probably not going to film one of these for a long time now, even though this will probably drastically change over the next couple of years. If you are still here, put a croissant emoji in the comments below to let me know you watched this whole thing. And if you're still here, you should probably subscribe. If you've put up with me for like however long this video has been, you probably should stick around. Make sure you're hitting that like button before you leave, and leave me that comment telling me which book of mine on my shelf you are wanting to steal. But other than that, I'm gonna go and take a nice sit down and drink my coffee, which is now room temperature, and I will see you in the next one.